What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and our 2023 college football predictions continue for the 2023 college football season. Up next are the Iowa State Cyclones, a team coming off a really tough season last year in 2022. They were pretty young last year. I think that's the reason why their record was not really overall that really good. I knew this was going to be a step back year, though, from Iowa last year in 2022, but you look at this team in 2023, and my thoughts on them, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be more competitive than they were last year. They got really competitive at the end of the season, but I think Iowa State is going to be much more competitive than they were from a year ago. Looking at this team's production coming back this year, 76% on the offensive side of the football, 51% on the defensive side of the football. Overall, they return about 63% of their production coming back. It may not seem like it's a good one, but I think Iowa State, like I said, they were going to be young last year, and then this year they got all that returning experience on the offensive side of the football. So I think this team will be really good. Maybe even get to a bowl game. We'll see how the schedule plays out. They'll play Northern Iowa, then they'll play Iowa as well at home, and then they'll play Ohio on the road. That's your non-conference schedule for Iowa State. Ohio on the road is a little bit kind of weird, to be honest, but they get that game on the road. Not really a tough place to play, but they'll get two of their non-conference games at home to start out the year. And then you look at the Big 12. They'll play Oklahoma and Texas for the last time in the Big 12, and they get two out of the four newcomers in the Big 12 this year in Cincinnati and BYU, and they're both on the road. But let's go game by game now and give you an official prediction here for this Iowa State team. So you got your first game of the season at home against Northern Iowa. This is a game I think Iowa State should take care of business in. They have no business to lose this game. And I think Iowa State should really score about 30 or 40 points in this game with the offense that they have coming back this year. And I think Iowa State wins their first game of the season at home against Northern Iowa. They start out 1-0 pretty easily. Then they'll play Iowa here at home on September the 9th. Rival game here between the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones. Probably one of my favorite non-conference rival matchups out of the Big 12 versus the Big 10 rivalries. The game last year was a low-scoring type matchup. Iowa State went on the road and defeated the Hawkeyes. And, Iowa didn't really turn out to be decent on the offensive side of the football last year. It really didn't go well for them at that side of the football. Defense, though, they were really strong. I think they're going to be really strong on that defensive side of the football once again, even though they lose all that production from last year. This year, the offense, I think, could be a little bit better, but this is going to be a low-scoring type game. I think both defenses will probably rule the day in this one. I think Iowa State's wanting to really run the football in this game and also pass the football. Iowa's probably going to run the football in this game. End of the day, though, it's a rival game. You never know what can happen, but I do like the Cyclones here in a 50-50 matchup. It's a really tough game to predict every single year between these two teams. So I got Iowa State defeating the Hawkeyes there, and then I got them taking care of business against Ohio here on the road. I know it's a road game, but I think Iowa State should take care of business in that game, and I got them starting out 3-0. Then they'll open up Big 12 play against Oklahoma State here on September the 23rd. Oklahoma State lost a lot of production, not due to from last year, not to seniors. It was obviously the transfer portal. This team, I think, is going to take a step back year this year in the Big 12, but I kind of expect a shootout here between these two teams. I don't think the offense is going to be all that bad for Oklahoma State. I think they still got some talented players on that side of the football, but defensively is kind of what I'm concerned about for the Cowboys, and defensively is what I'm concerned about for the Cyclones. Like I said, I think it's one of these shootout-type ball games, but Iowa State has this game at home here in a shootout-type ball game and also a 50-50 game. I'm going to go with the Cyclones here to knock off Oklahoma State here in a close shootout-type ball game. So I got the Cyclones now starting out 4-0 here in the month of September. Then it's Oklahoma on the road on September the 30th. And this will be the last time that we'll see Iowa State and Oklahoma go at it here in the Big 12. Going to be a pretty interesting matchup here, but I think the Sooners are just way too much talented of a roster here. I think with Dylan Gabriel coming back, that offense could be really explosive for Oklahoma. Maybe Iowa State competes in the first half, but maybe second half Oklahoma will pull away, but I think Oklahoma at least wins by at least a couple touchdowns or maybe more than that. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma here to give Iowa State their first loss of the season. That puts Iowa State's record at 4-1. Then it's TCU at home on October the 7th. The game, obviously, between these two teams were not really close last year. Iowa State didn't really compete in this game last year, where they're out for revenge in this game. Last year, they played in the last game of the regular season. This year, they're playing in October. TCU, what I'm concerned about is the offense. I think this is going to be a step back year. They lost a lot of production on that side of the football. Defensively, they should be pretty strong. I think this game kind of is similar to the Iowa game. It's a low-scoring type matchup, but with Iowa State being here at home and obviously a tough game to call here due to the amount of production that TCU lost, I'm going to go with the Cyclones here to get a win at home against TCU and get revenge on this Horned Frogs team. And I got Iowa State improving to 5-1. Then they'll play Cincinnati on the road here on October 14th. Cincinnati is a team that loses a lot of production from last year. They obviously got a new era, new rebuild here. Not like a rebuild, but they do have a new head coach with Scott Satterfield. How good of a coach will he be in his first year at Cincinnati? That's going to be the question. He does have experience at the Power 5 level. I think this is kind of one of those games that's really a tough one to call here, especially when it's on the road and Cincinnati being a really good team in the last couple years. This is going to be a tough one here for me. I'm going to go with the Bearcats, though, here with home field advantage over Cincinnati, or actually Iowa State here. And I think Cincinnati gets a close, low-scoring type win here against the Cyclones, and that puts Iowa State's record at 5-2. Then they'll play Baylor on the road after that on October 28th. So you got back-to-back road games here with Cincinnati and Baylor. And Iowa State gets a bye week before playing this game on the road at Baylor. I kind of expect a shootout here between these two teams as well. I think both of the rosters are pretty even between these two teams, but Baylor does have home field advantage in this one. I think it's kind of similar, like I said, to, the Oklahoma State game, and obviously maybe not really close to the Cincinnati game, but I think it's kind of similar to the Oklahoma State game. I think this will be a shootout-type ball game, but Baylor, I think playing at home will get it done here. I think the bye week kind of helps, Iowa State to get a little bit better here at the end of the season, but I don't think it will be enough to play on the road at Baylor. I think Baylor wins in a close shootout-type ball game here. So I got Iowa State losing 2 straight road games here to Cincinnati and Baylor. Then they'll get to the month of November. They'll play Kansas here at home on November the 4th. Big game here between the Jayhawks and Cyclones. I don't think both rosters are pretty even in this game. Jayhawks obviously have the more experienced team, but Iowa State has home field advantage in this game. So I think it's going to be a really tough one for the Jayhawks to win this one, but this is going to be a shootout. I think it's kind of similar to the Oklahoma State and Baylor game where it will go either way. This is a tough one to call for me, especially, Kansas doesn't have that overall recruiting talent just yet. It's going to take them a lot of years to come, but we never know. The Jayhawks could not really be that good this year, but I think Kansas is definitely going to be good this year with the amount of production they have coming back. Shootout-type ball game here, though, between Iowa State and Kansas, and I think I'm going to go with the Cyclones here to knock off the Jayhawks. I think with home field advantage, they do get it done by at least double digits, but I think Iowa State wins that one in a close one. That puts their record at 6-3. Then it's BYU on the road here on November 11th. BYU is kind of similar to Cincinnati. They lost a lot of production from last year. BYU didn't really turn out to be as good as we think they were going to be last year, but I think this is still a BYU team that's going to really be good. With all the talent over the years that they've had, I think they'll be really good here. I think this game is kind of similar to the Cincinnati game. It's a low-scoring type game. I can never count out BYU. I never can when they're playing at home. I just feel like they're the better team here. BYU, I think, gets it done here over Iowa State in a shootout-type ball game or maybe a defensive battle, but I don't think the game is kind of similar to maybe to the Cincinnati game where it's a short-scoring type game. Maybe it's kind of similar to the Baylor game where it's a shootout. So I think Iowa State will lose that one on the road, and that puts their record at 6-4. Then they'll play at home at Texas here on November 18th. The last time we'll see the Cyclones and the Longhorns in the Big 12. Texas obviously is going to have a really high-powered offense. Defense is going to look really strong for the Longhorns, but maybe Iowa State is not focused on the BYU game from last week. Maybe they're focused here on Texas the next week. And I think Iowa State will compete in this game, maybe for a half or two, but I think in the second half, Texas will pull away. I just think this team has way too much talent on their roster. Plus, Quinn Ewers at quarterback. I think he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. And I think Texas gets it done there on the road at Iowa State. That puts Iowa State's record at 6-5. Then they'll play Kansas State here on the road to end things out on November 25th. This is going to be a pretty interesting matchup to end things out here for Iowa State. They're already in a bowl game, so they really don't need to win this game to get to a bowl game, but they're kind of desperate for a win at this point. They have 2 straight losses, but let's be honest, it's on the road. Very tough place to play at Kansas State, and the Wildcats won the Big 12 championship last year. This team is definitely going to be good in my opinion. I think they're definitely going to really be good again. Maybe it's a step back year for the Wildcats, but I think Iowa State will lose a close one here to Kansas State. I think it's kind of similar to the Texas game where Kansas State will pull away in the second half. So I got Iowa State losing their last game of the regular season, and I got them losing 3 straight games to end out 2023. But they still get to a bowl game. They still get to a bowl game this year, in my opinion. 6-6 is my overall prediction for this Iowa State team. I could very well see this team going 7-5. I mean, if they did defeat Texas at home, it's really possible that this team could go 7-5, or maybe 5-7, and maybe can go 4-8 again. But I think this team is going to be overall really talented. I think with all the experience coming back on that offensive side of the football, especially being young last year, I think this Iowa State team is going to be good. So that's my prediction for the Iowa State Cyclones is 6-6 for 2023. Let me guys know what you think about Iowa State. What do you think their record is for the 2023 season? And stay tuned here for more sports content videos on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.